Hi everyone, my name is Haley and welcome back, or welcome to my channel. There is something new about this video, and it is the fact that I have this tiny, adorable microphone, and that is because today's video is going to be a sit-down, in-depth look at a certain subgenre of books. So that is why I have this format going today. I really love sit-down videos and just like chit-chat videos that dive into books, so that is what I'm doing today, and I hope you guys enjoy. So without further ado, let's just get into it. If you see me looking in this direction, it's because I have a whole script written for this video. I had so many thoughts that I wanted to get down on paper so I could share them with you guys, so that's why I'm looking over here. I'm sure you guys have heard, or maybe not, considering the insane sentence that is about to come out of my mouth, but there's a subgenre that I have recently become exposed to. And I say exposed with negative connotations because it really feels like something that was sprung upon me with no care for my personal happiness. This subgenre of romance that I am unfortunately referring to is inanimate objects / becomes sentient objects ex-human. I have no idea if that is the actual name for this trope, but I was too scared to do any more research on it. So instead of reading these books in my own time out of misplaced curiosity, I thought I could make myself feel better about whatever part of my brain rotted to want to know more about these books, and dedicate a whole video to 3 IO, inanimate object, ex-human books. Now, I'm not new to interesting pairings in romance books. I grew up during the height of Wattpad and AO3, animate object, fanfiction and romance pretending that it wasn't fanfiction. One Direction bought me after my mother sold me for money, The Alpha and His Hated Mate, or even I got sucked into a video game and now I have a real relationship with Mario and Luigi. You get the gist. But never in my life did I stay up until the crack of dawn reading about an object and a human. Unless you count the very toxic relationships we all romanticized where the woman was the pop star's property, but it was okay because he was a heartthrob. Needless to say, as someone who considers themselves generally pretty well read across multiple genres, why should I stop here? I think the beauty of literature is that literally anyone can contribute to the art form. There will always be someone out there who loves what you write, and that gives us the freedom to really say whatever we want. I'm here to put these books to the test to see if this is a genre that needs to be explored more, or one that will literally close this chapter of my reading journey. All jokes aside, I am not in any way trying to say that these books are bad unless I just don't like them, or make a joke about anybody's passions or interests. This is just a very interesting topic to me, and I figured not many people would want to read these books on their own. I am an aspiring writer myself, and I think it is fun and important to have discourse about things we might not understand and just have a good time. So the first book that I read for this video was called Squeak, A Twisted Tale by Vera Valentine. One thing I do love about these books is that the title usually lets the reader know what ride they are in for, but if you couldn't figure it out, this book is about our female main character and 2 balloon animal shifters. Poppy, our lead, is an art student and enjoys going to the zoo to draw people. One day, it's extremely hot outside, and one of our male main characters, Sebastian, walks over holding balloon animals and strikes up conversation. He notices that Poppy doesn't have any water and offers to get her a bottle from the concession stand where his boyfriend Keen works. There is a motive behind Sebastian's friendliness, as with most men, and he wants Poppy to draw sigils that will free him and Keen from their master. While Keen and Sebastian aren't balloon animals all the time, they can change into them at will and also manipulate certain body parts to become balloon material, which is important later on in the book. As we get further into the book, more information about their predicament is revealed. Tulpas, that is Tulpas, are magic wielders in this world, and Keen and Sebastian needed to find the correct sigils drawn by a human because humans were real life creations with souls to break the spell that their master had put on them. You might be wondering, what were they created for? Xena, who is the ringleader of the circus they used to be a part of, used them for her own bedroom pleasures. Obviously, Sebastian and Keen are traumatized and are trying to do everything they can to break the spell and not be found and taken again. Xena had also created them with an extra addition that they didn't realize wasn't normal until they saw another man urinating against a wall. So Sebastian uses his charm to get Poppy to help them. Meanwhile, Keen does not like her because he can tell that she has a crush on Sebastian, his boyfriend. But one thing leads to another, and in true narcissistic fashion, Keen and Poppy end up hooking up after he poses as a nude model for her art class. Here are a few important details about the explicit aspects of the story. It smells like powdered sugar sugar and latex, it referring to their balloon animal. They went smooth between the legs like a plastic doll when it was over. Quote, thin jets of funnel cake icing flowed out, end quote. Quote, he tilted his hips and nodded downwards where his entire pelvic region, still locked into my own, had gone a deep royal purple and translucent. I screamed. Really, what a great way to end a chapter. And then here are some quotes that made me laugh. I smiled at him, momentarily confused when I noted his usual bunch of balloons was nowhere to be found. That was strange. I could have sworn I'd heard them when he walked up behind me. I liked his energy. It was lighter somehow, because they are animals filled with air. It was a strange and beautiful happily ever after, and we made it our solemn mission, even after the heat ended, to find out all the ways that two balloons and an open-minded, mostly human woman could twist themselves up in pleasure. Remember how I mentioned they could change any part of their body to balloons? Well, Keen decided to make his inflatable into bubbles and was the one behind Poppy during their throuple. I don't know how else to explain this to you guys. I am so sorry. So the book ends because Poppy and Keen mate and they realize she is actually a true tulpamancer, unlike Xena, who was just borrowing magic but did not have the actual skill. They then mated with Sebastian too, freeing them from Xena's spell. She came back and tried to abduct them again, but Poppy killed her with a kiss that turned her into a balloon and shot her into the stratosphere. Now, I did give this book 3 stars, and that is 3 more stars than I thought I would give it. Honestly, like, this trope is not for me, but the writing was not too bad. I feel like if I read a romance book that had more mainstream tropes by this author, I would actually really enjoy it. I could see her writing a good college enemies to lovers romance, and I just know that I would eat it up. So as one door closes, another opens, literally. The second book I read for this video was called Unhinged, an erotic door romance, and in case you were wondering, the address number was 69. Unlike the previous book, this one is only told through the door's POV, which is something I thought I would never say. But this book follows Tina, the occupant of the apartment that door is attached to. While he is not a human, he does have thoughts and feelings and can see everything that goes on inside and outside the apartment, unless the door is closed, which I just find so funny. Tina's landlord is a creepy guy, and throughout the book we find out that he has been breaking into her apartment with the master key, stealing her underwear and attempting to poison her. We also get some exposition of Door having confusing and complicated feelings about wanting to protect Tina, but he is bested by some keys, so he feels helpless. It is also revealed that the landlord had killed a girl in the woods and buried her behind the building and was making Tina his next target. Oh my god, I'm saying Tina, her name is Tana, I'm so sorry. And in what I think to be the most obvious trajectory of the story, Zeus, although he is never named, comes to visit Door. He tells him that he needs to reach out to Tana in a dream as a human and convince her to have relations with him so that he can be turned into a human as well. Tana eventually decides to just say screw it and use his knock for her own pleasure. Safety first, of course, so she cleans it with Lysol and uses a condom before continuing. And if you're still confused, I don't think any more explanation of the plot will really fix that, but I will give it to you anyway. Door seems to be made out of a special acorn from Zeus, and that is how he is a sentient piece of wood. After Tana does the thing that you literally could not waterboard out of me, Door becomes Driss, a human. Of course, once he becomes human, Tana has no door anymore, so they order one to replace it. Quote, I'd not so subtly steered her away from picking a model similar to my own with a rounded knob on the interior. I knew it was ridiculous, but it made me a little jealous. I didn't want a replacement she could F, even theoretically. If Tana had a nickel for every door she banged, she'd have 2 nickels, which wasn't a lot, but it was weird that it happened twice. Other important details we find out, Driss likes to be called a good door. The landlord gets life in prison, and Driss turns into a door every full moon, which can only be reversed by Tana and his favorite pastime, oiling each other's hinges. Also, before the prison sentence, there was a scuffle between Tana, Driss, and the landlord. Driss gets shot, which turns him back into a door, and Tana gets him back from evidence and patches him up with wood putty. As she is knobbing herself on Driss, he starts to turn back into a human, one body part at a time. I'm sure you can conclude which one came first. Also, Hera makes a cameo. Not sure what Greek mythology has to do with this, but if you could comment any through line between those two things, I would love to know. Now, I think when I read Squeak by the same author, my judgment was clouded by the sheer curiosity this genre had awakened in me, but now after reading this, I kind of hate myself. It wasn't really funny anymore, just kind of sad that I had to sit there and finish the book. So I will be giving this a 1 star. It was just not as enjoyable, if that even is the right word, as Squeak, and the novelty of the synopsis has definitely worn off. One thing this book did do was make me slightly uncomfortable around doors, which I honestly could have gone the rest of my life without feeling. So if that wasn't enough to stop this experiment, the last book will surely be the cherry on top. I don't know if I'll ever be able to sleep in my room at all after this, considering the next plot is about a sentient pillow. So this book was called Stuffed, and it was by Sylvia Morrow. We follow our main character Anne, who hates people and is obsessed with anime. She seems to be a germaphobe, and that is why she doesn't like interacting with people. To set the scene, the word hoo-ha is used. I'm not sure what scene you're imagining, but after reading this, they're all bad. So as someone who doesn't enjoy people, Anne uses her pillow to relieve her needs watching her favorite anime boyfriend on her TV. I feel like that might be illegal, and if it's not, it should be. Quote, opening my legs wide for a moment to slip along my core where I'm leaking for my butler, end quote. I'm sorry, but any anime I see with a butler is immediately ruined for me from this moment forward. After that, Anne uses the same pillow to go to sleep, but guys, don't worry, she's not crazy. She flips it over so the moist side is not touching her. Her words, not mine. And then we get pillow POV, which sounds like something that someone would search on a different website, but I digress. At this point, I'm sure you're wondering, if you stuck around long enough to get to this point in the video, how is the pillow sentient? Well, his parents, or maybe not his parents, I don't really know, were a phoenix and a goose, and the phoenix died and one of his leftover feathers got stuffed into this pillow. He's only sentient enough at this point in the story to keep the pillow cool and fluffed for the love interest, and sucks the life out of any insect that lands on the pillow. Anne's desire to use said pillow also gives him life. Enter the creep named Todd. Anne works with Todd, and we get a scene of him hitting on her at work. One night, he shows up at her apartment because she left her wallet at work, and under the guise of returning it to her, Todd barges into her apartment and takes a seat on her bed, trying to convince her to Netflix and chill, not realizing she does plenty of that by herself already. So Pillow sees that Todd is making Anne uncomfortable and being an all-around bad dude, so when Todd touches Pillow, he begins to suck the life out of him. He's not totally dead, but definitely aged, like some reverse Benjamin Button shit or something. I don't know, I've never seen that movie. So while Anne is at work, Pillow now uses this new energy to slowly become a man. But Anne happened to come home early from work that day and saw that only below his torso was formed. Imagine a man with legs and feet, but his upper body is just 4 pillows. Honestly, with the way men act, that sounds kind of appealing. And I know it's actually outrageous for me to want a little bit of realism in these books, but when I tell you she wasn't even the least bit scared about what she saw is an understatement. She was confused. Pillow told her how he loves her and wants to protect her and is made for her, and she's just like, oh, okay. So now Pillow and Anne start discussing what physical form he should take on. Quote, well, there's this anime butler. I think it's a good place to start if we're working on appearance, end quote. There is another quote where she says, I should be afraid, but you're irresistible. What is it about you? Like she didn't just craft him to her specific wants and needs in a male partner. We then learn that Pillow, who she names Ori, can't stay inflated from sucking the life out of things here and there, which is surprising because he sucked the life out of me during this whole book. I shit you not, there is a scene where he is going down on her and his nose is smushed because there aren't enough feathers keeping him fluffed up. If we take it back a few pages, there is a scene where this group of teenagers harasses Anne by catcalling her and even touching her, which she has made clear throughout the entire book that she despises. So when they come to the realization that Ori won't survive without taking a little bit of life from the people around him, she hatches a plan. Ori will quickly touch each of them and just take a tiny bit of their life so that he can stay a manservant to a woman who touches herself to 2D characters. And if you've been connecting the dots like I was, someone who is obsessed with anime and uses it to relieve themselves is going to be watching hentai. So when they begin to get intimate, Ori tells her that he can change his feather to be anything. They experiment with it getting smaller and bigger while they are doing the deed, but the moment that I was really hoping wasn't coming had arrived. Tentacles. Ori grows 5 of them or something to use on Anne because he learned it from the shows that she was watching. The author lost me at sentient pillow resembling female main character's anime crush that she uses for pleasure, but the author will never find me me after putting me through all of that. And if we've learned nothing from the last books, he finishes with feathers coming out of him. Maybe a sequel will consist of Anne becoming a pillow too. So again, I would give this book a 1 star. Quoting Abby Lee Miller, if I could give you a 0, I would, but I can't, so I give you a 1. I don't really have much to say about this book specifically, except that the writing was significantly less enjoyable than the other 2 books that were written by Vera Valentine. And I just like, maybe because it was the last book and I really wanted to be done with it, but I really just hated reading it. So that's my thoughts on this last book. I honestly feel like my life during the time that I was reading these books has been blocked from my memory. It was very hard for me to get through the last 2 books on this list, and I think the first book only got such raving reviews from me because it was the first book. If I wanted to torture my enemy, I think I would just send them to a deserted island with nothing but these books, but maybe we would get a Wilson 2.0 that is definitely not family friendly. Like I said in the beginning of this video, my intention for reading these and talking about them is not to shit on anyone's interests or dictate what can and can't be written about. This is my own personal opinions that have nothing to do with the people behind these books, and I'm here to tell you guys if these books are worth it or not. And the moment you've all been waiting for, because you are all here for my opinion only and nothing else, these books are not worth it. Kind of sound like the Maury Show. I feel like this genre as a whole could be worth it if there are less outrageous and honestly irritating plot lines in other books of this genre. As a lover of fantasy and sci-fi and all things fiction, I'm no stranger to suspending myself in somebody else's made-up reality, but sometimes things just go a little bit too far. That coupled with these objects coming to life, which just isn't my cup of tea to begin with, and that makes for a very unenjoyable reading experience. Yes, these books made their rounds on BookTok, and that inspired me to make this video, but if you are actually curious about them, I'd say skip it and get your fix for questionable love interests elsewhere. There was nothing particularly gripping about the writing, and I didn't like the plots, and I just finished every book with wide eyes wondering what just happened in the hour I spent reading it. All in all, if you're looking for objects turned sentient with insane backstories and female main characters who don't really question it and live happily ever after, this would be good for you. But if you want to save hours of your time, I'd say skip it. There's no reason for you to read them after I just gave you this glorious breakdown, right? Right? Well, that's all I have to say on these books, which I guess was kind of a lot. If you have any other books or series that you don't want to read but would like to know about them, drop them in the comments and I will do my best to break them down in another video for you. Use me as your guinea pig, that's what I'm here for. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, comment, like, subscribe, all of that stuff. I hope you are all staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!